Hi, my name is Siddhi. I'm from the mathematics department at IIT Madras. I just completed my MSc here, and I was placed at Deloitte as a data scientist at the analytics and cognitive department in Bangalore. So, what they've told me until now is that mostly I'll be obviously dealing with data, right? And the most important thing for a data scientist is to check the quality of the data before doing any analysis or drawing any conclusions. So they emphasized a lot on the data itself. So being able to recognize how good the data is, cleaning the data, and then moving on to the analysis part, which is a very small fraction. So I had 2 rounds of interviews. In the first round, they asked me questions mostly based on probability and statistics, and they asked a lot of questions based on resume in the second round. So in the first round, of course they were asking how much I knew, but they expect you to know the foundations of statistics and data science techniques if you are applying for such a role, of course. So they asked me questions on which methods I know. So since I was doing a project and using PCA in that project, they asked me in-depth questions on that, like the very basic mathematics of that, which involved linear algebra and other mathematical concepts. So whatever is there on your resume, you should be thorough with it. And if you are applying for a role, you should be thorough with what are the requirements for that role, and your basics in mathematics and statistics should be crystal clear. HR will try to gauge you as a person, like how you would work in a team. So they might ask you some questions that if there's some crisis, how would you react to that? Like for example, if one question I was asked in an HR interview was that if you're working late and everybody in your team is also working late, then would you complain to authorities, or how would you react? So my answer was that if it's just one day and the entire team is working late, then it's okay, then I would also stay and work with them. But if this is a recurring problem, if this is happening a lot of days, then as a team we should go and report this to the authorities and deal with it. There were a few very simple puzzles, but the thing is what happens in an interview is you get very nervous. So even simple questions you can't think straight because your mind is not working. So you just have to remember to stay calm and talk them through your thought process. Even if you don't arrive at the answer, it's okay. Even if you get half of it, it's okay. Just don't stay silent. Tell them what you're thinking. Yeah, I was asked one puzzle about I think partitions of integers. I don't remember exactly, but it was a very simple puzzle. But I remember that I was blanking, but then I told them what I was thinking, and I think I solved around 75% of it. I couldn't reach the answer, but they were okay with that because I explained what I was thinking. So especially for the technical roles such as data analysts, data scientists, like I said before, your stats has to be crystal clear. They will definitely ask questions on probability, on hypothesis testing, on some distributions, commonly used distributions, then approximations of distributions, then some methods that are used in data analysis. For this, they'll ask you what you know, and then they might ask you. Then another important thing that most students don't know is the treating of data. So they'll ask you about outliers. They will ask you how you clean data, how you deal with data. Like first of all, given a data set, what problems are there? So the main problems are outliers and missing values. So how you deal with those? If there are some missing values, how would you replace them? Would you even replace them, or would you remove those entries? So you need to really understand how to deal with those problems. So for me, it was a very different path because I started off wanting to do PhD. So in December I was almost going to upgrade to PhD, but then I changed my mind, and by then the placement season was pretty much over, the first round. So that's when I started preparing after that. And most people will tell you that there's not much scope in phase 2, but my placement happened in phase 2 itself. So you keep preparing, even if you don't get placed by the end of your course, you can come back the next year. Most people don't know this, but you can come back the next year to give placement. So I think around 2 to 3 months is sufficient, but obviously the longer the better. And if you have a particular role in mind, then you should prepare according to that. So general aptitude, you will find lots of questions online, so you can just practice those. The main thing is, these questions are mostly easy, but the main thing is that the time that you get is less and there's a lot of pressure. So if you solve some mock tests online, then that will give you some confidence. And of course, if you are applying for companies, then you will have lots of written tests. You may not clear a lot of them, but you will get that practice, and by the end you will be very proficient. So the main thing I did was revise everything that I had studied in statistics right from my undergraduate degree. I knew that I wanted to apply for a data science role or data analyst role, and for that the most important thing is your foundations of statistics. And so I just revised everything I had studied in statistics, and I also went through the notes of the courses I had studied here. So stochastic processes, regression analysis, then data structures and algorithms. Those are very important for technical interviews. So one very important topic is regression analysis. You should know the entire foundations, all the assumptions. They can ask you to derive the entire method. They asked me to derive the entire method of PCA almost in my interview, and asked me the assumptions of every single method. What is the aim? For hypothesis testing also, what is the aim? What are we checking? What are the assumptions? So make sure you know everything that is on your resume, everything that you have studied till now. It should be up to date. You should know everything. I didn't actually particularly prepare for the HR interview, but I just looked up some common HR questions and had some answers in mind if they ask me some questions. For example, a very common question they ask is, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? So just look at a few questions, maybe 5 to 10 questions, and just keep a structure of an answer in your mind. For statistics, I recommend the channel called StatQuest, which has a lot of videos on even up to machine learning and even the basics of probability statistics, and every topic is explained very simply, but also with the rigor. So go through those videos. And for the coding part, I used Free Code Camp for Python, and that's all. So Kaggle is a very good resource if you want to do something related to data. So the main thing on Kaggle is there are millions of data sets that you can use, and not just that, there is a huge community base for Kaggle where every single data set that is uploaded there, most probably it will have some code notebook along with it, and there will be a data card explaining the data, all the variables that are there in the data, and lots of people would have uploaded analysis and methods to clean the data using different languages. So usually there will be Python and R. So you will be doing either one of these if you are preparing for placement. So I recommend that if you are using Kaggle, then you should just search for some data sets and sort it by the data sets which have the most votes, because they will have a lot more code uploaded for them. Go through the notebooks and then try to write one on your own. And Kaggle also has lots of ongoing competitions in which you have to analyze the data. So just enter some competition. All you have to do is make an account. Of course, statistics is always asked. Then there's general aptitude, like basic mathematics, then probability, and data structures and algorithms is one topic that a lot of students, especially from MSc, they have not studied. So if you can take the course, it is available as an elective. That will be very helpful for not just for the written part but for the interviews as well. And in general, it's a very important topic in computer science. See, I would say don't lose hope. I gave a lot of interviews, wrote a lot of tests, and not just that, I missed the main placement season. I thought that I'd have to look for a job off campus, but there are a lot of opportunities. Like a lot of companies come to IIT, and the fact that you are here itself is a big selling point. So study as much as you can, brush up on your basics, don't worry too much about doing extra things. If you do one project and you do it well, and they can ask you hours worth of interview questions based on that one project instead of doing 2-3 things half-heartedly. And keep trying until the end. At one point I thought that okay, now I won't apply for any companies on campus because nothing is happening. But you keep trying. If even if you don't get placed, at least you'll get experience for off-campus interviews, and you'll get to know what companies are looking for.